Hello, everybody. Welcome to Galactic Wisdom. Today we're going to look at right and wrong, but there's a couple of interesting pieces of news that I think deserve a bit of attention first. This guy here, Jake Barber, has started to reveal that he was a US Air Force helicopter pilot when there was a crashed UFO, and that he was involved in the recovery of that UFO. This has started to be released on News Nation. So if anybody's interested to check out this story, go to News Nation with Ross Coulthart. And this whistleblower has very significant and verified information about a white, egg-shaped UFO that he was involved in recovering. So more information is going to be released on News Nation on Saturday evening. So I recommend that people check out that story, because this is going to be pushing our governments, the industrial military complex, it's going to put them under pressure to release, to disclose information about UFOs, UAPs, things that they have recovered. So this is very significant news. Now, for those of you that are following this story, you might also want to look up the Trinity UFO case. The Trinity UFO case was an event that happened in 1945, in which a couple of young boys on their property close to where there was a nuclear bomb test, there was a crash of it was described as an avocado-shaped UFO with insectoids on board. So the reason I'm telling you about that is because the Trinity case involves an avocado-shaped UFO. This new whistleblower information is talking about an egg-shaped UFO, and it could well be the same type of craft. It could well be the same type of species inside. Now, in 1945, the two boys had a look inside a hole into the UFO, and inside they saw some praying mantis-like beings in there. So who knows, this could be, these two incidents could be related. But it seems that a lot more is going to be released on Saturday evening. If anybody is interested in watching that disclosure live with me, then do feel free to join me in my Patreon group. We are going to be and there's a free button that you can click on there to join for free. We are going to be looking at that video release as it's released on Saturday evening by Ross Coulthart on News Nation. He seems to be the person who is sort of the front runner of this disclosure. So feel free to join me on Saturday evening. Following that Saturday evening event, I am going to be hosting a Arcturian contact event and meditation. We actually know some Arcturians. We're quite far along in the process of connecting with these different beings. We connect with Arcturians, we connect with insectoids. I haven't yet asked our insectoid friends if the egg-shaped UFO was theirs. I'm just looking through my images to see if I have any photos that I could show you. Here's a mantis being that came to one of our sessions, well, actually several of our sessions. And we have also interacted with other insectoids, ant-like beings that we call antians, and a range of other insectoids. So there's a lot going on Saturday, and I invite you to join us. And at the end of this show, I will give you the website again if you would like to join us on Saturday. Also, before I start talking about right and wrong, I'm going to share with you a short video clip of an experience that I had in the summer of 2024. I went to a haunted building and I stayed overnight alone in this haunted building. And this is the room where I stayed. And if you can see in the right-hand side there against the far wall, there's a little cupboard, and that little cupboard opens up. And this is where a spirit is supposed to live. And or I'm not sure if live is the right word if you're dead, but here is a look into that little cupboard, and this little boy who is called Andy, the spirit of this boy lives in that cupboard there. And I went into this location in the summer and I led a paranormal investigation. A lot of people know me as being a alien contact specialist, and I am. But it's very interesting because you can apply alien contact protocols to communicating with human spirits. And that's what I do quite a lot. I'm going to talk briefly about that before I go into our main subject of today, right and wrong. Paranormal investigators, whom I have great respect for, they tend to go to a location that is known to be or suspected to be haunted or occupied by spirits. And they take with them technology, electric, magnetic field, meters to try to record using technology any evidence of there being paranormal investigations there. They go in there with night vision cameras or thermal imaging cameras with a range of, like spirit boxes, a range of technological devices to try to record something. And that is the way that they tend to approach paranormal investigations. And they do that because they have a suspicion, they have evidence that there is some activity there. So they go in there with the technology to record that activity. As an alien contact specialist, I don't always have the luxury. I usually don't have the luxury of being able to go to a location where I have confirmed the confirmed presence of advanced non-human entities. Usually, I have to astrally project to them. So I astrally project to them with a team of astral projectors, remote viewers, remote communicators. We astrally project to them, and that could be off planet, that could be the moon, that could be another country, that could be an extra dimensional space, it could be inside a mountain. We're not typically able to go there in person to take technology with us. So we rely on psychic perceptions, remote viewing. Remote viewing is something that's been demonstrated and used officially by the CIA, and now it's common knowledge that remote viewing is a psychic ability that we have. That's what I do. So when I went in to this haunted building to do a paranormal investigation, I did take in lots of technology, and later in the evening I used it, but I started off by leading the paranormal investigation team who had never done an alien contact event. I started off by leading them in a meditation in which we connected spiritually in our minds, psychically, with the spirits that occupy this haunted building. And so we sat up in this upstairs bedroom where Andy, a small boy, is supposed to exist. And I started leading a meditation where, before we used any technology, we tried talking to Andy and seeing if anything would come into our minds, seeing if we could perceive anything. And we started off by really trying to connect with Andy on the level of this is a young boy. So we had some storybooks, and we invited Andy to come and join us and sit with us in a circle, and we read some stories to Andy, and we really sort of tried to connect with him as a person first. And this is another of my procedures, my methodologies for connecting with any beings. Whenever I go into any communication with any being, it is on the basis of a vision of universal peace, universal love, universal well-being. It's completely non-discriminatory. There's no judgment involved. We go in there, we fill our hearts with peace, with love, and with an invitation of friendship. And that works well when you're connecting. I mean, it often works well when you're connecting with humans. It definitely works very well when we're connecting with non-human intelligences, because basically what they're waiting for is us to be peaceful and friendly and kind to everybody. When we can be kind and peaceful and friendly to all humans, then they're going to be able to come in and reveal themselves to the whole of humanity and invite us into their communities, because then they will know that we'll be peaceful with them. So we started off with in this way, and I'm going to show you it's just a very short video clip in which I asked Andy a question, and the paranormal investigators who had never done a meditation like this before were shocked when three of them received almost exactly the same answer when they picked up on it. So here we go, just a short video clip. Hey Andy, I feel privileged to meet you. So nice to meet you. Can you tell me, Andy, do you know what year you were born in?
1962.
You got 1963, you got 1962?
I got 63.
1963.
That's crazy.
That's pretty crazy. Great. So, let's see, why isn't that video clip going away? Is that still a photo? Sorry, I still have a photo up. Sorry for the delay. I will remove that now. There we go. So, in that short video clip, what happened was I asked Andy, in which year were you born? And three of the people in that group two of them heard 1963, one of them heard 1962. That is an example, because that could have been any year at all that they could have heard, but that's an example of us communicating, human beings communicating with spirits astrally or spiritually without the use of technology. There were a number of other cool experiences that evening, and maybe I'll talk about those experiences another time. Today, we are going to talk about the subject of right and wrong. And this is kind of following on from what I talked about last week. What I talked about last week was good and bad. And I'm going to recap just for a couple of minutes on good and bad, just to help people maybe who didn't watch us last week. First of all, I want people to understand, I consider morality to be subjective. I'm a space scientist. I understand how to objectively determine reality, but I can't objectively determine morality. It's a matter of opinion, at least that's what I think. So with that being said, I want people to understand that I consider a lot of what I'm saying in this meeting, in this podcast, to be subjective. I don't consider what I'm saying to be true. I don't consider myself to be right. I just want to put that up front. And it's okay for you to disagree, because a lot of what I'm going to say is opinion-based. A lot of what I'm going to say as well depends on our definitions of words, but I'm trying to use definitions that work for what human beings typically use these words for. When we ask the question, is that person over there, or is that action that person is doing, is it good or is it bad? It helps to add on to that question, well, good for who? Bad for who? And this is what I talked about last week. And I'm going to give one example right now that I gave last week in order to illustrate that point. If there were a mountain lion that catches and kills and eats a deer, we could ask the question, well, was that action good or bad? But it's not that simple. We have to ask the question, well, is it good for who? Is it bad for who? Is it good for the mountain lion and the mountain lion's cubs? Yes, it's good for them. Is it good for the deer and the deer's fawns? Clearly not. So in one action, in one situation, an action is both good and bad, depending on who you are. So in this way, if we were to analyze our own actions in our lives, things that we do, it's very common for things that we do to be good for one or more people, or one or more conscious beings, and bad for one or more conscious beings, both good and bad at the same time. Now, of course, one of the biggest problems that this planet faces is that a lot of people choose to do what is good for them as individuals, regardless of how bad it is for others. If we want to strive to ascend, then it helps to consider the idea that an absolutely good action is one in which no harm is done to anybody. An absolutely good action is one that is good for everybody. And I encourage all of you to strive to be as close to absolutely good as you can get. Now, it's actually very hard to do anything that's absolutely good. If you were to smile at somebody, that probably is absolutely good because it's not causing harm to anybody, unless maybe the person doesn't like you, in which case it may harm them emotionally to know that you're happy or smiling. But we can strive to be as good as possible, but it's hard. But there is the concept of right and wrong are different to good and bad. They're more practical. And I'm going to talk about that now. As I've said, sometimes harming others is unavoidable. Whenever we walk across some grass, we harm insects, arachnids, and worms that live in the grass and in the ground underneath. We're not trying to be a bad person, but it can cause harm to others. Whichever political party we vote for, some people somewhere will be harmed. In our modern world, it's not practically possible for us to never use electricity, the generation of which contributes to climate change. Sometimes all we need to do to harm somebody who doesn't like us is just to keep on breathing. So being absolutely good is challenging. It can be quite hard. But it is always possible for us to choose to do what is right. Right and wrong are all about what we should do and what we shouldn't do, how we should and how we shouldn't act. Most actions, as I've said, are both good and bad. Good for some beings and bad for others. However, any action that you take can be just right. Or, if you make the wrong decision, just wrong. Now, it does depend on how you define right, and I'm going to come to that in a little bit. But being able to choose what is right enables us to be, if we really truly are thinking, if we're really truly trying to be wise, we have the ability to always be morally right. That is a target that very few people on this planet reach. What tends to happen is people tend to do what feels right to them, And what feels right to humans is often immoral. It doesn't feel immoral, but it is. And we live in a world in which human beings tend to do what feels right to them, and it results in wars and chaos and terrible arguments and conflicts. In order to actually be morally right, we have to learn stuff. We have to use our advanced intellect in comparison with other animals on this planet in order to truly understand morality. And that's something that I try to help. That's something I try to ask questions about in a way that it may give insight to people on this subject matter. Morally right is, we can define it as, acting in the most moral way that's practically possible. Last week I talked about practically possible. If we don't insert practically possible in there, then there are unreasonable expectations on us being right all the time or good all the time. For example, we need to sleep. It's not practically possible for us to stay awake all through the night, doing good, trying to help others. We could do that, but then we would start suffering, and then our ability to help others would be diminished. So we can only do what is practically possible. If I were a millionaire or a billionaire, my ability to do the right thing all the time would be greatly increased. I would be able to help others far, far better than I'm able to do now. And that's probably true for everybody. So morally right is acting in the most moral way that's practically possible. Morally wrong, conversely, is not acting in the most moral way that's practically possible. We could define moral rightness as choosing the most moral option that's open to us, that's practically possible, and moral wrongness as not choosing the most moral option that's open to us, that's practically possible. So the concept of moral rightness allows us to be right even when our actions are not good for everyone. So this starts to get to the level where, okay, we're in order to be moral, we're actually having to think a little bit about this. And I'm going to come back to this example. It's a controversial example, but I'm not going to be controversial because I'm not going to take sides. In this example, have you ever voted in an election in which you know that neither of the candidates' policies are absolutely good? Well, clearly, no politician's policies are absolutely good for everyone. No matter what policies a politician has, they're going to not be good for some people who disagree with those policies. But if we're forced to vote for this person here who's going to cause some harm, this person here who's going to cause some harm, how do we do what is right? We can't be absolutely good, but we can be absolutely right if, for example, we research both of these candidates enough to determine which is the least harmful option. We have this expression, which is the lesser of two evils. This lesser of two evils is something that we face with many of our decisions on this planet. And it's something that we have to confront and identify and understand if we are to be as moral as is possible. So it's extremely hard to always do what is good, but we can choose what is morally right. Here's another example. And this is also controversial again because it involves violence. And I want to say up front, I do not condone violence. I am a pacifist, but this is a hypothetical situation in order to analyze the intellectual concept of right and wrong. In a hostage situation, Imagine that the criminals give one of the hostages a knife, and they tell him that if he doesn't go over there and kill one of those other hostages, then the hostages, will kill a family of 6 of the hostages. And the man is faced with a situation where he either kills one or they kill 6. Neither of those options are good. They both involve causing harm to somebody. But one of the options is less evil, less harmful, less bad than the other. And the man decides that he thinks that the lesser of 2 evils is for him to kill the one in order to save the 6. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the right thing to do was. I'm telling you that the man decided that the right thing, the lesser of 2 evils, was to kill the one. Now, that's a horrific situation to imagine oneself being in. And some people reject it and say, well, I would do something else. I would talk to the hostages. I would try to use my martial arts to fight the hostages. I would kill myself rather than killing anybody else. You know, you can argue things like that, but it goes against, it's not recognizing the hypothetical situation for what it is, for what could be real. And in our lives, we, on a regular basis, are faced with these decisions of the lesser of 2 evils. Let's say you want to get in your car in order to drive some medical supplies to some people who have been injured in some wildfires close to you. You are trying to do something good, but you know that when you walk across the grass to get to your car, you walk across your front yard, you're going to kill some insects along the way. So already you're not being absolutely good. And then you're going to get in a car and you can't afford to buy an electric vehicle, so it's an old gas or petrol burning vehicle, and you're contributing to climate change by driving these medical supplies somewhere. Again, you're causing some level of harm in the process of trying to help others. This is an example where being absolutely good is not possible in this situation. But you can do the right thing. You can make it your own personal evaluation. What is the right thing to do? And in this case, maybe it would be the lesser of 2 evils. And the lesser of 2 evils is you've got people suffering who have been burned in a wildfire. Go and help them. Okay? We can worry about the other things another time. Go and help the people who have been injured. And the firefighters, probably not consciously, but the firefighters who were recently helping to stop the fires in LA, whether they were conscious of that or not, they faced that decision. And they chose to go and help people. They did what they felt was the right thing. The best that any of us can do in this world is to do what we feel is right. It is subjective. So going around judging other people is not helpful. And going around judging other people and certainly inflicting harm upon others because what we've judged what they're doing to be wrong, that's unascended, that's unwise, and you're causing harm, and you're forever causing harm to that person or people in that time. That's not good. We can do better than that. So this is the subject of right and wrong. I'm going to look at 1 or 2 other examples. And I'm continuing with this idea of the lesser of 2 evils. Ultimately, what I have done, my end point in all of this, the intellectual end point certainly, is to come up with a set of moral advisements that could, if people want to listen to them, could help people to live their lives in a way that is as moral as is possible, causing at least the least amount of harm as is possible. When you look at moral advisements that already exist, like the 10 Commandments and a lot of laws, which are essentially advisements about what you should and shouldn't do, a lot of the time, it's easiest, and people have recognized this in the past, it's easiest to tell people what you shouldn't do. You should not do this. It's easier to tell people what you shouldn't do than what you should do when it comes to doing the right thing, because the harm that is caused on this planet, that's the problem. Even if people just sat around and watched TV and didn't go out much, they could still be good people if they just didn't harm people. Harming people is the problem. So our moral advisements, like the commandments, thou shalt not, it's telling people what you shouldn't do. And if you follow the rules of what you shouldn't do, you can be a good person or you can be a morally right person. But there's a problem. There is a big intellectual problem with having a rule that says you should not. And the problem with that rule is that no matter how bad the thing is that you're saying you shouldn't do, like kill a person, for example, there could be a hypothetical and real situation in which that could be the lesser of two evils. You can always have something worse than the thing that you're being told, no, don't do that. Like, don't steal. Okay, well, don't steal. That's a good rule, right? It's a law. You don't steal from others. You don't walk into a shop and you don't steal anything. But what happens if you're like a teenage boy that's living with a young sister? You're homeless on the street and your sister is starving, and there's no other, you're either going to let your sister die or you're going to steal some food for her to keep her alive. It's hard to argue that you should let your sister die rather than steal. So there's always, no matter what you say you should not do, there's always something that is even worse. So actually putting together a set of advisements, commandments, rules, procedures, suggestions for what you shouldn't do is very, very hard. And you have to include within it intellectually thought out clauses and carefully worded sentence structures so that what you advise can always be right. This is complicated. It probably sounds like I'm a university lecturer trying to lecture about the philosophy of morality, and it's going over the heads of a lot of people. It's certainly something that a lot of people don't want to waste time thinking about. But we need to, because humanity at the moment is making too many bad decisions. Humanity at the moment is sliding into very dark and dangerous places. And that's what humanity is. So the people who are watching this show, both live and afterwards in the reruns, I commend you for listening to me. And I commend you for listening to me talking about something that's a little bit complicated. And it's such a good sign that you are listening to me and hopefully being open to the concepts that I'm talking about. We need to be able to use our brains and our hearts at the same time if we are going to ascend, if we are going to really solve some of the big problems in our world. So I'm going to talk about a couple of examples. Let's look at the moral advisement: never kill and eat animals. Whether you agree with that or not, let's take that as a hypothetical moral advisement. Never kill and eat animals. Well, if the only two choices open to you are letting 10 children starve to death or killing an animal to feed them with, then could it be that killing that animal, cooking the animal and feeding it to the children is the right thing to do? That's an example of going against a moral advisement in order to do something that you think is more right. And as I've said, we could extend this to never kill anybody at all. But then we could say, well, if the options are to kill 10 children, or to, if the only options are to let 10 children be killed by a mass murderer, or to kill that mass murderer, to use reasonable force in taking down that mass murderer, then is it not the right thing to do to kill the mass murderer? Or if somebody's trying to kill you, to kill them before they kill you. There may be options where doing the lesser of two evils is the right thing to do. Now, again, I want to make it clear, I am a pacifist, and my biggest moral philosophy is put peace above everything else. Put peace above politics, put it above religion, put it above land, put it above nationalism, put it above everything. That's my personal way. So these violent situations I'm talking about, it's just an intellectual process to try to figure out what is the right thing to do in order to achieve the most peace in all situations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the things that I've noticed in people is holding some people back, and that is the concept of empathy. Whether or not people agree with me, I know that I'm a very empathic person. When I was a small child, I remember I was just a toddler, and my dad was showing me in a bit of light, shard of light that's shining through our back garden, some little gnats flying around, little black insects. And he said, "Oh, clap to the insects, show them that you like their flying skills." And I clapped, and I saw that I had inadvertently killed or injured one or two of these little gnats in my hands, and I burst into tears because I had hurt living things. At school, on the school bus, I was a prefect, and I had to sort of keep a little bit of order on the bus. And a favorite thing of some of the people on the bus was to capture a crane fly. Some people call them daddy long legs. There's these long-legged flying, they look like giant mosquitoes, but they're completely harmless. They would take these crane flies, and while alive, they would pull off the legs and pull off the wings. To me, my empathy told me that was absolutely shocking and disturbing, and I couldn't understand how those boys didn't feel the empathy for that living creature. When my father took me fishing, and I didn't really know what was going on, I was excited because we were interacting with living animals, and I care about living animals. But then when he took one of the fish and slammed the head of the fish onto a rock to kill the fish, I burst into tears. And then I was crying again later when he was cooking the fish. And I'm very empathic. I'm also empathic when it comes to dealing with people. When I have, at an early age, when I have inadvertently upset people, it has traumatized me. It damaged me that I was responsible for harming people. That has led me to being very, very cautious with others, that I do whatever I can not to hurt them. Now, there are some people out there who will be harmed, as I said before, simply by me breathing, simply by me being alive. A lot of that is because I'm not religious, and there's a lot of religious people who hate me because of that and really try and hurt me because of that. There's a lot of people with different beliefs who have different beliefs from me, and when I don't support their beliefs actively in a public setting, they turn around and they try and hurt me. I do feel empathy for them, but I don't feel the same level of guilt when I hurt them, because I did it it was, you can't help but harm some people out there who are dark, or who have different opinions from you. But in the past, when I have harmed people and I've looked back and thought, I didn't want to harm them, I did that inadvertently, maybe I could have done things differently, it really has traumatized me, to the extent that from a very young age, asking permission was always something that I've had to do with people, give people opt-out options for anything, and anything that anybody does at any of my events is always optional. But I have empathy. And when I see a video of people being hurt, I find it very hard to watch that. When I was a child, right through my teens, I found it very hard to watch the news, because the news is so full of pain and suffering and humans causing pain and suffering to others, that I found it very hard to watch the news. I have appalling videos that pop up in my social media. I don't know why, because I hate them, of people getting into accidents. And it's like, stop it. Show me the puppy videos. Stop showing me people getting into accidents. I feel pain for them. I can't take it. But I've noticed that a lot of people laugh at those videos. They spread those videos. They like those videos. There is a great lack of empathy. It's hard for me to understand. It's hard for me to understand how anybody can knowingly harm anybody at all, including people who have been convicted of a crime. Help the person to not do the crime again. Help the person to overcome whatever trauma or emotional or mental sickness they have that they would commit a crime, but don't hurt them. Let's start to help everybody. Unconditional love. Unconditional love is a phrase that we need to be using more, that we need to aspire to more. So I suggest to people that whether you feel empathy for others or not, understand that doing the right thing involves not causing harm to anybody to the extent that it is practically possible. My moral strategy, and it's subjective, but my moral strategy is, as I said last week, to be as moral as is practically possible to as many conscious beings as is practically possible. So just on a sort of a first level, a first order evaluation of your own actions, if you feel like you want to do something that is going to harm somebody, if you feel like harming somebody is the right thing to do, and I'm talking about people, I'm talking about aliens, I'm talking about people from other countries, I'm talking about convicts, I'm talking about animals, I'm talking about anybody, anywhere. If you want to try and determine, is there a better way? Is there a more ascended way? Then ask yourself, is it practically possible for you not to harm that conscious entity? If it's practically possible for you not to harm that conscious entity, and you don't have to choose that option because it's the better of two evils, the lesser of two evils, then don't harm them. Last week, I put forward 5 examples of where people fail not to harm others. And I am going to, in the last 8 or 9 minutes of this broadcast, go through those 5 places where we can choose not to harm others if we want to, where it's practically possible not to harm others. And it's okay if you disagree with me, because this is subjective. Intellectually, objectively, I am correct in what I'm saying, in that you don't have to harm people or beings in these situations, but the morality side, the choice of right and wrong, that has to be up to you. And maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to put these 5 situations to you. And before I put the 5 situations to you again, I'm just going to let you know our alien friends have psychic links to each other. And when they connect with you, they have psychic links to you. And those psychic links to you include the ability to look into your mind and to look into your heart. They are empathic beyond feeling, beyond intellect. They are empathic in a spiritual way, in a psychic way. And when they feel anybody being harmed at all, any conscious beings being harmed at all, they feel that harm. They feel that pain like it's their own. And if we could, as people, as individuals, and as a species, feel the pain of others that we're causing harm to, like it actually hurt us, we would stop immediately. And we would absolutely try to do what is right all of the time. These alien entities that are out there almost exclusively are very caring and benevolent beings because they've reached that level of spiritual connectivity. So, the 5 things. When humans say, post, comment, or write bad things, critical things, insulting things about other people, it's very easy to find people in this world that are doing things that we don't like, but we don't have to publicly criticize them, shame them, cancel them, bring them down, or harm them. When we do that, there are more ascended ways. It's practically possible for us not to harm those people. Now, some of you, I'm sure, are listening to this thinking, oh, but I feel like we need to get back at them. We need to teach them. We need to punish them. We need justice. We need accountability. That's us being human. We need to be better than human. Think and feel. How can we help them in a way that we help ourselves, our societies, and them all? So I'm going to suggest never say anything bad about anybody. Now, if you have a close friend, it can be psychologically valuable to vent. Say bad things about each other. Say bad things about people in private because you're not harming anybody that way. But you're helping yourself psychologically. Oh, this happened. I need to vent about it. That's okay. But don't vent about it on social media. The second way, and I've already said this, but when humans punish, get revenge, or get justice on people whom they think deserve it, it's practically possible not to do that. And our ability to judge others is appalling. Look at the history books. Look at our history books. We're the same species making the same bad decisions for reasons that are appalling. We don't need to be doing that. 3, this is a hard one for people to face. And I understand if people can't get on board with this, but think about it. Because the most suffering, the most pain that's going on this planet is being caused by humans to the animals that we consume and that we use for dairy as well, meat and dairy. We could then ask ourselves, is it practically possible not to eat them? If you're surviving in the wilderness and there's no other food sources, maybe it's not practically possible for you not to kill them. Maybe it's the right thing for you to do to save your family by killing that rabbit over there and cooking it and eating it. But most of us and most people, probably all of the people listening to this podcast have the ability to walk into a food store and have multiple options that enable it to be not just practically possible not to eat meat and dairy, but to be healthier, to not eat meat and dairy, healthier for you, healthier for the planet. There's another thing to consider. I started off eating lots of meat, and when I started to move slowly over 2 or 3 years towards vegetarianism, I just decided I'm going to do it once a week. I'm going to go to my local store. I'm going to check out some of those Impossible burgers. I'm going to check out some of those fake chicken nuggets and fake fish things. I'm going to try them. And some of them were vile, but some of them tasted really good. And I ended up wanting to eat them more than some of the other foods. The fourth way: when humans vote for political parties or politicians whose policies harm others. And we're all around this planet where we're getting into dangerous territory with the people that we're voting into power. Now, this is hard because a lot of people just don't have the information. A lot of people, there's so much disinformation out there that it's hard to know who is a better person, who is a better politician, who has policies that are more morally right than others. The only thing I can suggest is listen to both sides of the story. Watch both news stations. Try and have a more rounded view or channels of evidence coming into you. The fifth section, the fifth area in which human beings can do better is when they harm others and they don't realize they're harming others. It's not they're bad people, they just don't know the truths. So I recommend learning. We can't be moral unless we learn, unless we keep learning about where the products come from that we buy, about what will happen if we choose certain policies over others, what our lifestyle choices mean, the impact that they have on others. I've pretty much run out of time, but I've pretty much said everything I want to say. This evening, in about 2 hours, I am going to be hosting a Galactic Council astral projection in my Patreon group. If anybody wants to join me in my Patreon group, that's what the website looks like. There's a join for free button in there. And if I quickly throw up here, that is the URL of my website. If you would like to keep learning outside of my podcasts, then please join us there. I am going to remove that banner. I am going to, where's that media asset? There we go. I've removed that. I would like to thank everybody for watching. I wish you peace and love and well-being. Take care. Goodbye for now.